Hello everyone and welcome to RcHelpDotCom. I'm Tony and today we're going to be building a little 250 quadcopter. Now all the stuff that I got for the quadcopter I got off of eBay. I wanted to see if these little Chinese quadcopters will actually work. I mean, to put it bluntly. It comes with a CC3D board, it comes with 4 motors, Emax motors, comes with 4 Emax ESCs, the frame, the props, it comes with everything, and I've got it down here and we're going to take a look at it here in just a second. Now the 250 quads, they're kind of hard to keep orientation, so they're mainly made for FPV. A lot of people are racing them, going in through trees and stuff like that. And the reason is, line of sight, flying these things by line of sight is kind of hard because they are almost symmetrical. You can get turned around real easy. In fact, before you put that top plate on, there is no front and back. You decide the front and back when you stick that top plate on it. So let's go ahead and dive up close and I'll show you what you guys get if you order the same kit that I ordered. Alright, so when you get your kit in, this right here is basically what you're going to get. You've got your little control board, little CC3D control board. Mine come with pins coming out to the side. I didn't like that, so I changed my pins around. The control board is going to come in a little case like this, and so is this wire. So you've got 2 other wires for these 2 plugs over here so that you can plug in like a satellite receiver or something like that. You also get 4 Emax motors. These are the 2280 kV motors. You get a power distribution board. This does not come soldered on, and the plug doesn't come soldered on. You're going to get 16 of these little screws like this. Those screws are for the top and bottom plate. They basically hold these on. There's 8 of these rods, 16 of these screws, 16 of these, which are a little bit longer. They hold the arms to the frame. Then obviously you got your lock nuts. Here's your little legs. A lot of people don't use them. We're going to put them on this one. This is your board camera mount. This is your like mobius mount or whatever. These are your dampeners for that mount. And then right here is 16 screws. These are the medium screws that come with the motor. The motors are going to come with 3 different size screws. The mediums just happen to go through these arms really well. You know, you get 4 arms. You get 2 of these plates here. 1 of these, 4 props, 2 clockwise, 2 counterclockwise. And then of course you get your ESCs. Now I took this one out of the package because this is one of them that I was testing with, and you know, it's just a plain Jane 12 amp ESC. Do not let this packaging fool you. It says Simon Series. It does not have Simon K firmware in the ESC. It's a lot like Simon K, but it does not have Simon K. So with that, let's get this thing put together. There is a little bit of a specific way that you have to put this thing together, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how we do that. Now in this build, you're going to be using thread lock. You're going to thread lock these into place. You're going to thread lock the motors. Anything that's going metal to metal, you're going to thread lock. Now this control board does not come with standoffs to mount it to the frame. So you can buy these, or you can use some kind of gel tape. I got this from Kevin over there at NextRC. That gel tape is fantastic. I am definitely getting some more of that. But I'm going to use basically some nylon standoffs, screws, and nuts. Now the threads on the standoffs and the screws are a little bit long, and I ordered them that way because I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to trim them up. That way I know everything fits perfect and everything's going to stay in place. Alright, now obviously we're going to need some tools to put this thing together. I've got 2 Allen drivers sitting here. My 1.5 millimeter on this one got broke. Nobody knows how, imagine that. But I've got the 1.5 on here. You're only going to need 2 different size Allen drivers on this. You're going to need a 1.5 and you're going to need a 2 millimeter. 1.5 is going to be for your motors, and then 2 millimeter is going to be for like all these right here and screwing your arms onto the frame. For right now, we need the 2 millimeter. What you want to do, get you 8 screws out. And as you can see, I've already got thread lock on this. I apologize, I've done this video once and everything went horribly wrong. So we're doing it again. Then what I'll do is I'll lay them all sideways, and I'll just put a little dab of thread lock on each one of them. Once we have that, take the screw, stick it up through the hole, grab us one of our little spacers and go ahead and just snug it down. We'll do the final tightening later on. Repeat that for all 8, and I'll show you exactly where these go here in just a second. Alright, so when you're done, this right here is what you're going to have. Everything is going to line up together in this direction. So basically get your outside holes here, then just keep going down. You can put this one, these 2 in, these 2 in, and then come back in and place these. But just take a look at it. This right here is exactly what you want. Alright, now we need to get our standoffs on, and I mean it's quite literally as easy as punching them through and then just tightening down the nut. Don't over tighten these. These things, they will strip unbelievably easy. Alright, and just like that, we got our 4 standoffs in so that we can put our control board in. Now these little legs right here, they're kind of sticking out a little too far and that bottom plate won't go on here. So we need to cut them off, and whenever we cut them off, it's going to do 2 things. 1, it's going to allow that plate to go on, and 2, it's going to kind of distort the plastic a little bit to where it almost acts kind of like a lock nut. And there you go. Got them cut off. They're not flush, but they're not going to back out either on their own. Alright, the next step in the process is putting our arms on. Now this can kind of get tricky. You may want to do it one arm at a time. Basically put this arm on, stick the bolts through, put your other plate on, and then go ahead and feed bolts. Go over here, stick this arm in, this arm, going like that. The way I do it is I put all 16 bolts in, and then I go back and stick all 4 of the arms on, and then I'll put the bottom plate on. Alright, got all of them in, all of them are nice and seated. Now we can take all of our arms and just stick them on. Again, there is no orientation to these. Once you get the arm through, you can just kind of turn it up like that and it'll stay in place. What I do is I basically place my finger over all 4 of them and then just press it into place. Just like that. And just that fast, we got arms on her. Now we can take our bottom plate and just kind of wiggle it over all those screws. Again, I'll kind of press up here at the top, feed one side in, feed the other in, and then I just work my way around. Now comes the tedious part. We get to put 16 of these little lock nuts on. Now these are lock nuts, so you do not need any thread lock on these. Alright, one correction, it's extremely early. Those screws would have actually come through the bottom here, but by snipping them off with a pair of wire cutters on these nylon nuts, it basically, like I said, it acts like a lock nut, but they would have come through down here. So if you want to like drop a little drop of CA on there or something, you can, you know. They will come through and they will clear at their fullest length. Alright, now that we've got all 16 of the nuts on, now we need to get our 2mm Allen driver, and this is actually a 7/32 socket. I don't know what it is in metric. That socket's kind of missing from my repertoire. And we just tighten them down. Alright, got all 16 of them little suckers tight. She's starting to look pretty good. Alright, now it's time to put the motors on. However, the red lock nuts are going to be a right-handed thread. The black nuts are going to be a left-handed thread. These are going to turn counterclockwise. That way if you hit something with the prop, it'll actually tighten that nut down. The red ones need to go right front and left rear. The black ones need to go left front and right rear, just like that. Remember, there is no front or back even after we put these motors on. Now these motors, they do come with a little Allen driver. These kind of look like spring steel. I haven't been able to break one yet. But I use them to tighten the nuts. I just use these right here, my good drivers, to put the screws in. Again, we're going to need some thread lock on this. So I'll grab all my screws and we'll start putting motors on. Alright, got one of my screws, put it through the arm, put a little dab of thread lock. Oh, that was a lot. Grab the correct motor, line up our wires. And then just almost snug it down. Now on these, we're going to have to put thread lock on it before we put it in there. Alright, barely snug it down. Do this for all 16 of these little suckers. Alright, once you're on your last one, I don't put a handle on this. You don't need a handle on this. I just take and snug it down pretty much as tight as I can get it. That thread lock will hold them in place. Alright, that's 4 down. 12 more screws to go. Alright, so there you go. We got all 4 of our motors on. They're all thread locked down, not going anywhere. Now we've got a bunch of wires hanging out, and we're going to deal with that here in a little bit. For now, we need to flip it over and get our power distribution board put on. The way I put it on, I just stick it on there with some double-sided tape. The double-sided tape is going to keep all your contacts away from the carbon fiber. You could take and put like a piece of rubber under here, drill holes, and actually mount it to the quadcopter, but make sure nothing touches that carbon fiber. I'm just going to use some double-sided tape. It seemed to work pretty good, so that's the way we're going to do it. And what I do, I cut a strip about yay big. First strip, I'm going to put directly over that positive and negative lead. That way, there's no way that it can touch that frame. And I'll just press it down on there. Once you're done, you'll have something like that. Like I say, these up here are off center because they're covering up where those wires go in and poke through. Alright, peeled off all the red, nice clear tape, can't even hardly see it. Now, these wires are going to be facing the back, so just kind of try to remember that whenever you go to stick it on there. We'll just press that little sucker down. And in about 15 minutes, that thing will be cured up. And it more than likely is not going to go anywhere. But if you want to be 100% sure, you could always wrap a couple zip ties around it. That right there, we've got our power distribution board on. Alright, from here, we need to get our ESCs on. Now, you could do like I did and actually take the heat shrink off and try to solder directly to the board. However, that screwed one of my ESCs up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these wires, and this is actually a comment from Lee on the forum, my moderator, and I'm going to cut them off about yay short. Just enough to where I can still get in there and get some solder on it, and then I can put the heat shrink up here on these wires. That's going to leave me not a lot of extra wire, but I will have to tuck some of it back up in there. Alright, got our nice pile of wires over here. All of our ESCs are cut off nice and short. Now we need to strip all these wires, and that part's going to take a little while. Alright, once you have them all stripped, you'll have a little bit of wire sticking out just like that. Now we need to tin these wires. If you guys don't know how to tin a wire, do a search on RcHelp's YouTube channel for how to solder. Alright, we got them all tinned up. Now we need to solder them to the motors. Before we do that, we need to get some heat shrink and cut off 12 pieces about a ½ inch long. Alright, we got 12 pieces of heat shrink there. Now we just slide it over each one of these motor leads. Make sure to slide them all the way down to the body of the motor. Alright, now that we got all the heat shrink on, now the fun begins. Now we get to solder these little bitty wires to these even smaller in diameter wires. It can get tricky, just guys take your time. You'll get it, I promise. One thing very important to note, the hotter your iron is, not better. All you need it to do is just melt that solder. Once you have it soldered on, it'll look something like this right here. Now don't put your heat shrink on it yet, because if this motor is spinning backwards, you're going to need to swap around 2 of them wires. Then go ahead and solder up the other 3. Alright, there we go. We have a wiring nightmare now, but everything is soldered up. Alright, now's the time we need to figure out where we're going to mount the ESCs. You can mount them anywhere you want. If you want to mount them way up here like this and double stack them, you can. If you want to mount it up here on the arm, you can do that too. But we need to figure out where we're going to mount them, because we need to get our power wires put to the power distribution board. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and hook it up. That way we can go through the settings and check all of our motors and make sure they're spinning the correct way. So I'm just going to do red to positive, black to negative on all 4 ESCs. And once again, double check, make sure all these motor wires are spread apart from each other. Alright, now we need to get our little control board on. Now the screws I ordered are a little long, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim them off. Alright, now remember what side your battery wires come out of, and then look on your board, you're going to see a little arrow. That arrow is going to face the front, so I need mine just like that. And just like that, our CC3D open pilot board is now mounted. Alright, now as you can see here, I've got all my wires put into my receiver. The black, red, and white wire is going to go into your throttle port. Make sure the white is on your signal side. The other ones are only signals. The blue wire, or purple as it may be, is going to be your aileron. The first yellow right next to that blue is going to be your elevator. The green is going to be your rudder. And then I've got another yellow and then a black. Now on here it's saying that this yellow is supposed to be orange. This is going to be your flight control. What the black one is, I don't have a clue. It's not on the diagram in the program, but I went ahead and plugged it into my auxiliary 1 port. We'll see if we can figure that out later on at another time. But that right there is exactly how you want it wired up. Remember where your signal is on this. On this particular receiver, the signal is towards the label. So now I'm just going to fish this through the bottom to try to clean up them wires a little bit. Then we'll just snap it into place, just like so. So now I can just kind of tuck them wires under there, and I'm going to put the receiver in there, something like that. But before I do that, I'm going to take and put a few twists on this to try to get them wires to kind of bunch up a little bit. And they'll tuck down in there real nice. Now on this one, I'm going to use some Velcro. I got some Velcro from Walmart. This is industrial strength. It's like 15 minutes setup time on the adhesive on the back. This stuff is unbelievably strong. Before you do that though, take you some alcohol and kind of clean off this carbon fiber. Now for those of y'all wanting to know, all of this Velcro right here was $7. Alright, we got our strips cut. Now we just need to cut them down to size. Alright, we got all our nice pretty squares. I just need one of each, and we'll set these to the side to do our ESCs a little bit later. Now the way I've always done it is this fuzzy side I always put on the piece that I'm actually wanting to secure. You guys can do it either way you want. This is just how I've always done it. Stick it right on there. Now we'll take the other piece and just stick it right on the frame. Now remember, this is going to be the front. You've got to have room if you're going to run an FPV camera in here. So we want to scoot that back as close as we can to that board without actually touching it. Then kind of wiggle it back and forth. I'll tell you what, that thing is not going to go anywhere. Now the way I do this, I leave this antenna sticking out the side, and then I'll run this antenna straight back. Alright, as you see there, got my antenna running out the back. The other one's running out right over here. Everything right where it needs to be. Just make sure that this antenna right here doesn't get up in the prop of this motor on that arm. Alright, now, this right here is the front of the quadcopter. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So, in order to do all of our testing, we need to go ahead and plug these in that order. Alright, now that we got that, once again, make sure these wires are spread apart. Now I know, this is a wiring freaking nightmare. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove all of my spinners off the motors. Alright, as you can see, I went ahead and placed a little bit of tape on each of the motors. We're going to need this because now we need to hook this up to the computer and start the setup of the CC3D board. Now it has a wizard and it makes this almost impossible to screw up. What you need to do is you need to get your radio, go in and set up a model. I have mine set on aircraft. You can do aircraft or helicopter, but aircraft seems to work for everybody, so I put it on aircraft and I didn't really change anything from there. You're going to go in and you're going to mess with all your settings in the program, and that's what we're going to do right now. Do make sure to go ahead and bind your receiver to your transmitter. Alright, now that we've got everything kind of hooked up, again, make sure all your wires are separated. Can't stress this enough. I don't want you guys to pop an ESC like I did. What we're going to do is take our USB cable, connect it to our computer, and we're going to go through the vehicle setup wizard. This makes it really easy. Take your USB plug, go ahead, plug it into the CC3D. Down here on the screen, you're going to see this turn green. Right there. Alright. Now we'll click the setup wizard. You can read all that if you need to. Alright. If you have not upgraded, go ahead and click upgrade and erase all settings. What we'll do, go ahead and click next. Open pilot board identification. It's identified both of them. Click next. I'm using PWM, which is one cable per, which is what I showed you before. If you have PPM, you can use that, S-Bus, or you can use a Spectrum satellite. Now the Spectrum Satellite requires a little bit of soldering and some custom wiring. We'll get into that in a later video. Go ahead and click next. We're using a multi-rotor. Click next. Now on here, on this drop down menu, you can select what kind of copter you have. I'm using the Quadcopter X, which will look just like this. Click next. If you have just standard ESCs, go ahead and get the 50 Hz. If you have something that has like Simon K or something like that on it that can handle 490 Hz, go ahead and click that. That's going to depend on your particular ESCs. Click next. Now here, this is the connection diagram I was telling you about. White, red, black. That's going to go to your throttle. It's also going to supply power to your receiver. Blue, or in my case purple, is going to be your roll or aileron. The first yellow, I have two yellows on mine. The first yellow right here, whenever you come down, white, red, black, blue, yellow, that's going to be your pitch or your elevator. Green's going to be your yaw or your rudder. This one is saying that it's orange. It's not orange on mine. It is yellow. That's why I say that one's the first yellow, this one's the second yellow. That one's going to go to your flight mode, to where you can change different flight modes. And then I've got another wire. It's a black wire. I just went ahead and plugged it into auxiliary 1 or channel 6. We're going to see what it does. Alright, we can go ahead and close that out and go ahead and click next. Now in here, you need to make sure that this quad is perfectly level. What I did is I took a bubble level out of one of mine. I went ahead and put the feet on the quad, and what we're going to do is we're just going to set this on the frame going front to back. Now we need to lift or lower this board to try to get that bubble level perfectly level. Alright, now that we got front to back level, we'll move it. We'll go perpendicular. That looks really good. This is the reason I got this board. I can stick a wedge under here, go up and down, stick a wedge over here, and go up and down this way. That way, no matter what way I need to move, I can do it with these two shims, or Allen drivers, as the case may be. Then, turn it back and double check it again. Everything looks good, so we'll go down here and we'll click on Calculate. As you can see, receiving data. Now, I did accidentally hit that button before, that's why I had the bar across there. Yours will not have a bar at all. That's what it looks like whenever it's done. It says done. Perfect. Alright, go ahead and click next. Now here, read through all this, guys. Take your props off and just stay safe. Click all three of these. Alright, now we got the start button to where you can push it. We'll go ahead, push the start button. As you can see, it says to go ahead and plug the battery in. Plug the battery in. Once you hear that, click stop. And that's basically calibrated all four of your ESCs. Alright, go ahead and click next. Now here, again, make sure your props are off. They should already be off. We'll go ahead, click next. Motor 1, if you look here, is going to be this one here, the left front. If it's not the left front, then you got something plugged in wrong on your board. We'll go ahead and click start just until it starts running. Right about there. Now, this is the reason I put the tape on it. I'll go ahead, I'll hit it. This one's going clockwise. That's exactly the way that it needs to go. We'll click stop and then click next. This one's motor 2, your right front, do the exact same thing. I try to get them to sound about the same. This one should be going counterclockwise. That one's hitting basically the left side of my finger, meaning it's turning counterclockwise. That's perfect. Go ahead and click stop. Next. Number 3, the exact same thing. Alright, check that rotation. That one's going clockwise, just like the other black one. Click stop. Next. And then number 4. Alright, check that rotation. That one's going counterclockwise. Absolutely perfect. If at any time one of your motors is not spinning the correct direction, just unsolder 2 of the wires and then flip them around. Just like on a helicopter, just if you solder them in, it's kind of a pain, but if you got bullet connectors, you just unplug it and plug them back in. Alright, now that we're done with that, we know all of our motors are spinning correct. We'll go ahead, click next. Now in here, you can get kind of a basic setup. Now I've selected QAV 250 before, and it was really close. The IMP gains were a little bit off. We'll get more into that in another video. I'm going to select the ZMR 250, and I'm going to try that one now. Now we'll go ahead and click next. Now all we got to do is save the configuration. We'll click save, and that's all there is to it. Go down here, click next. Now we're into the transmitter setup wizard. Now make sure that you are bound to your receiver, obviously. As you can see here on the screen, arming settings are now set to always disarmed for your safety. Go ahead and click OK. Now in here, welcome to the input configuration wizard. Please follow the instructions on the screen and only move your controls when asked to do so. So we need to turn on our radio. Alright, now that our radio is on, everything's bound up. We'll go ahead and click next. Now what it's going to want you to do is, which one did you select, acro or helicopter? Again, I suggest selecting acro. Click next. What mode is your radio? I've got mode 2. Click next. Now it wants you to move the throttle stick. All you do, move the throttle stick up and down. Then it's going to ask you to move the aileron, right, left, elevator, down, up, and then rudder, right, left. Now it's going to ask you for the flight mode switch. Alright. Now, I don't have an accessory switch, so I just go here, select skip, skip, and skip. Now it wants you to center every one of your switches. Alright, all mine are centered. Go ahead and click next. Now it just wants you to basically move everything to the fullest travel. Now one thing, make sure right is right, left is left. My rudder's backwards, but my throttle's right, aileron's backwards, and my rudder's backwards, or my elevator's backwards. Alright, but the switches are working. Now we just click next. Now I need to go in, reverse roll, pitch, and yaw by checking the boxes. Then I'll look on the diagram, go up, down, left, right, up, down, right, left. And then we've got our switch, which you can't reverse the switch. You can do that inside your radio, but you can't do it in this program. Alright, now go down here, click next. You have completed the wizard. Make sure that the screen basically mimics your movements that you're doing. Everything looks really good except for the flight mode switch. We'll take care of that in another video. Alright, click next. Now, on arming, I like to take it and do yaw left. 30 seconds of inactivity. We'll disarm it. We'll go ahead and click save. Little check mark. I don't know if you guys saw that. If you look down here on the save button, click it. Little green check mark says saved. Everything is good to go. Alright, we'll go ahead and select disconnect and disconnect it from the program because our setup is done. Go ahead and remove the USB cord, take our bubble level off of there, unplug our battery, and shut off our radio. Go ahead and remove all of our pieces of tape. Now that we know all of our motors are spinning in the direction that we need them to spin in, now we can put our heat shrink on and mount our ESCs and clean up the wires. Alright, now that we've got the control board program, now we need to go in, put all of our heat shrink down, and heat shrink it into place so that we don't have any shorting issues. What I'm going to use, a little Benzomatic. I put the tip on it. Basically it just pumps out a bunch of hot air. It doesn't actually pump out a flame. So go ahead, light our lighter, push this up. Light that bad boy where you got a little flame in there. Bring it back. Make sure it's still glowing. We'll put our heat shrink down, move all of our other wires out of the way, and then just heat shrink it into place. And just keep doing that for every single one of them. Try not to get it so hot that you unsolder it though. Alright, one down, 3 to go. Alright, now if that's done, go ahead and click our little heat gun off, heat gun soldering iron. Whatever you do, don't do what I did. Got that a little close to the battery. I was positioning some heat shrink and I had it sitting in my hand as I was working on it, and it went over there and kind of touched that battery. But no damage to the cells, it only hit the outer wrapper. but just be careful, guys. Alright, now we need to go ahead, unplug all of our servo leads from the control board, because we're going to run this and we're going to make it look all nice, neat, and tidy. Go ahead and flip it over, take our legs back off, and now we can figure out where we want to put our ESCs. I'm basically going to put them to the very inside of the arms on the underneath side. Before we stick our Velcro to it, take another little bit of alcohol, and we'll go ahead and clean these arms up. That way it sticks, nothing's going to come off. Go ahead and peel our backing off, and then just stick our Velcro right to the arm. Do that for the other three. Alright, now on the ESC, you've got the side up here that's got, you can see a little bit of wire in there. Then you've got the side down here that's got all your capacitors and all that crap. I put my Velcro on this side. Personal preference, you can put it anywhere you want. Press that into place and do it 3 more times. Alright, now that we've got it on there, now all we got to do is just stick the ESC to Velcro. Now we need to get out 4 zip ties and zip tie them all into place. I know what you say. You know, why do we use Velcro if we're zip tying? Just a little extra added bit of security. Alright, go ahead and clean them up. Clip off the ends of the zip ties and try to position the wires to where they don't drive you crazy. Now we're going to take a zip tie. We're going to zip tie them wires in place so that they don't get caught in the prop. Now, because I forgot to put the legs on, we got to try to stretch them across the wide part of this leg. Just like so. I know a lot of you guys don't like these legs, but they're here. So I'm going to put them on. If they break, they break. I mean, it's not a big loss. If they do break, there's some holes in these arms. So I'll just put a standoff in there or something. Alright. Now she got feets. Yay. Alright, now, biggest pet peeve, these long servo leads. Wow, these things are long. We're going to take the 2 on the right, put them out to the right, take the 2 to the left, put them out to the left, and then we're going to clean them up even more once we get them up there. Alright, now remember, right front, left front. This right here is the left front. This is going to be number 1. So we're going to take this one first, take your little Allen driver, and then just start coiling it up. Alright, kind of snug her down a little bit. Pull that out. Now, bring this over and plug it in to number 1. Alright, this one over here is going to be number 2. Do the exact same thing. Alright, and with that, you know, that's about as clean as you're going to be able to get it. I could probably take this, kind of tuck it up in here a little bit. You don't want anything tight against this. Alright, it actually looks pretty decent. I'm happy with that. Hell yeah. Alright, now we can get ready to put the top plate on. Before we do that, we've got to push these big ass rubber pieces into these little bitty holes. Take your time. Don't use any sharp objects, and don't pull on them too hard, because what I do is I just kind of pull from the bottom until they pop out like that. Again, don't use sharp objects. Don't, you know, you can use like a blunt tip screwdriver to kind of help you if you need to, but I'd much rather just kind of pull them. This one here, actually, it popped into place without even having to do any pulling. Alright, now comes the hard part, and that is attaching the mobius standoff. Again, just gently kind of pull it through, just like that. And the further you go, the harder this gets. Like right there, I just pulled it out of the bottom. And once you're done, you got a nice little springy platform to set your mobius on. Alright, if you're going to run a board camera, this is the piece to put on the board camera. On mine, it's pretty darn loose. You can use some hot glue or something and kind of, you know, secure that up. But for mine, I'm going to go ahead and put it in just for sake of this video. But I will hot glue it in I got to make an adapter to put a different kind of camera on there. The FPV is going to be in a later video. Alright, go ahead and set that on top of there. Take your 8 screws. Remember, if you're doing this to actually fly it, put thread lock on these guys, seriously. These things do vibrate with 4 props. Alright, now if that's on, now we can stick the props on here. Remember, counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. So we got clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, and counterclockwise. Now these little 250s, the black ones on mine are left-handed threads. Helps if you put them on the right motor. Now I do urge you guys, go ahead, put some thread lock on these nuts here. I've got to take it back off a little bit later, which is why I didn't put any on there. I'm just going to do a quick test flight. Alright, and there we go. We got everything working just like it should. Now, we need some place to put a battery. Now, I've already got Velcro on all my batteries. We're going to fly this with a 2200. Kind of chunky, kind of heavy, but this will kind of make up for all the FPV stuff whenever I put like the 1300s on there or something. So what we need to do is we need to clean off this deck with a little bit of alcohol. That way we can get all that oil off of it that this was covered in, and put some Velcro on there, and we're good to go. We're ready to put a battery on it. Alright, we're going to need a strap, help strap that battery down just in case. And then slide your battery in, stick it in there. On your battery lead, I just come up through the bottom here. That kind of gets it a little bit out of the way. Now I don't put any Velcro on my mobius. I just let these little rubber pieces do the holding for me. Slide her on in there, get her nice and lined up. And tighten her down. And guys, with that, the battery's on, camera's on, you're ready to go out and do some flying. But before you do, we need to turn the radio on, we need to plug our battery in, and make sure these props are spinning in the correct direction. I'm going to show you how I do that after we go back to the widescreen. Alright guys, so that's how you build a little 250 quad. They are super simple. You know, I know a lot of people, they don't like these little legs. And I know some of them times the angle of that camera and everything, it was really weird during this build and how to get down there to it. So I do apologize for the camera angle. If you have any questions, you can always come over to the forum. Right now, we'll go ahead, crank on our radio, make sure the throttle's down, plug in our quad, let it initialize. Alright, now if you look at that blue light right there, it's flashing slow. What I'll do is I'll go left on my yaw and it starts flashing fast. I'll barely raise my throttle. All 4 of them should start spinning. I'm blowing crap all over the place. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise my throttle. Make sure I feel air underneath every one of them, and that I don't feel air coming out the top. Make sure every one of them are spinning in the correct direction. The way I do that, I'll just start them and then stop them. In my opinion, you can't check this too many times, because if something's wrong when you go out there and try to fly it, it ain't gonna work so well. It's gonna be a bad flight. So, speaking of the first flight, yaw left is to arm it, yaw right is to disarm it, and it'll go back to flashing slow. Now I can raise the throttle and nothing happens. So, speaking of the first flight, it's cloudy, not a lot of sun, but there's no wind. Let's take this thing out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to fire up the Mobius camera and let you see it from a first person view on the maiden flight of the little 250 Chinese clone quad thing. This thing didn't even have a name. I don't know if it's QAV or a Blackout or whatever clone. We're going to go fly it. Yeah. saw, that first one didn't turn out so good. What I'm going to do, I did the ZMR or something. I'm going to go in and put the QAV back in it. It was going up, and then it was just, it was just falling on its face. It's like it was cutting two of the motors off. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to change a couple settings, and then we're going to go out and do it again. This thing flew yesterday. It's going to fly again. Yeah. All right, let's go for round 2 with the QAV settings in here. Alright guys, well there you go. As you saw, the QAV 250 settings worked a lot better than the ZMR 250. The ZMR, I mean, it was just dropping out, flipping over. You guys saw it. You guys took the ride. You know, you're upside down going, oh good. So, you know, the QAV 250 did a lot better. It still got some of that little wobble in there, I'm sure you guys saw. Pyros are almost perfect. It's kind of wandering around a little bit. Now at the very end of that last flight, I tried to do a full throttle punch out, and it just, boy, it tipped sideways. And I don't know, I forgot to put, I got a little low voltage cutoff buzzer thing. I forgot to put it on, so it may be losing some voltage. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm gonna charge some batteries, and we're gonna go out and I'm gonna fly some more. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, there's a link in the description below. It'll take you over to the forum, and you can post all of them up there. I look forward to seeing you guys on the forum, and we'll see you guys in the next video. I'm gonna go do some more flying after I charge some batteries. Yeah.